Hey y'all, hey, it's me, Xtina McCrary on Facebook, aka Xtina McCrazy on TikTok and Instagram, host of McCrazy's Place. You know where to find it because you're here. If it's your first time, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. You know how we do, it's just conversation. This is today's guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I actually just realized my maiden name is still on here, which is totally fine because secretly I miss it. I secretly do miss it, not so secretly, because it is my mom's maiden name. So like I have it. But aside from that beautiful intro, I'm Leticia Salazar, now Salazar Lindner. So I actually didn't have a middle name. The second of each gender, my mom was like, nah, you don't get a middle name. That's it. So we just got one first name.
Tired.
Yeah, she was like, nah, it's fine. Only the first of each needs a middle name. You don't need one. And so I made my maiden name my middle name. So we have that there. Okay. I am a teacher, been doing that for 5 years. I am a human wrangler for so long. And I feel like I've done that in many jobs and not just in education. I just realized your little your tag says like hostess Gemini. I am also a Gemini. Does that mean, is that why we get along really well? And I'm also a Raven.
It might be.
We get along really well.
It's the Gemini, it's the Ravenclaw, and it's the fact that not even knowing me at the time, you named your daughter after me.
Yes. I did however change that H out. My whole goal with naming my daughter was just straight up, can I scream this in Spanish to instill fear? Or she's like, oh shit, my mom's mad at me. I done messed up. I will go throw out the trash now.
That's also where the middle name helps out. Because with my kids, when I said their full name with the middle name.
Yeah.
Did you give her a middle name? I
gave her 2. And it wasn't because I was trying to be extra Mexican. It wasn't. It just worked out that way. I wanted to give her a middle name because, like, for me, I was like, yes, the middle name is that big emphasis, right? But my mother-in-law actually passed away. Like my mom died about a month after we did our religious wedding during COVID. Like the COVID bans got lifted. We were able to gather everyone up the weekend of Thanksgiving 2020. So after Thanksgiving, we gathered together and we did the religious wedding. There was no dance floor, which was the biggest bummer to me. Like it made me so sad. So there was no dance floor. And we had both our moms there. And then 1 month later, I get a phone call and it's my brother. And I will never forget the words. The words were like, mom's dead.
Just straight out, no sugarcoating.
No, it was, I missed a phone call, my sister-in-law, but it was from my now sister-in-law. And I'm like, she never calls me. But that day we were supposed to meet up at my local park so we could meet in the fresh air and give the kids their Christmas presents. Because it was like 2 days after Christmas. And then I was awake, I was asleep, and I get woken up, and I'm like, God, I swear, if you're calling me to cancel 2 hours before we're supposed to meet, I'm going to kick your ass. And then I'm like, wait, why is my sister-in-law calling me? I call her cuñis, because in Spanish, cuñada means sister-in-law. So I call her cuñis. I'm like, why is cuñis calling me? So I call her back, and she's like, hey, there's something going on with your mom. And like, we knew that she caught COVID. But we didn't know, like, she's just like, hey, there's something going on with your mom. And I'm like, well, what is it? Like, I just spoke to her Christmas Day. And then she's like, we'll call you when we have more information. I'm like, okay. And I sit up, and I was raised a very Catholic girl. So I sat up and I start praying. And I'm literally like in bed. And then I get a call from my brother, and I answer the phone. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And those are the first words out of his mouth. Because none of us could believe it. And he's just like, mom's dead.
That's crazy.
And I like dropped out of the bed, and I dropped to my knees, and I prayed to God for her soul. And I get up and I am like, let's go. And my mom lived in, Lancaster at that time. No hate to anyone in Lancaster, but I will never return. I was never a fan before that. Because I'm like, I have to drive an hour and a half on there's one way in and one way out.
Oh.
Go see my mom, because you got to get on the 14 and you can't get out. So like, no hate. I had to go in and out one way, and I'm like, I hate going to my mom. I love seeing my mom. I hate going there. And so like, let's go. We got dressed. We got it. And we left. And then, so that all happened. We handled that. My mom actually got buried on my mother-in-law's birthday. Wasn't the plan, but it took that long to get everything handled because so many people passed away. And that July of 2021, my mother-in-law died. So when we were like, we took a couple of years to just kind of recuperate from that, heal from that. So our first year of marriage, my husband and I like dealt with 2 funerals.
But not just 2 funerals, like both of your moms.
Oh yeah, it was whack. And like my mom and I did not have the best relationship, but it was one of those things where like she loved me the way she knew how. And that was that was how she knew how to love. And she loved me in a more caring way than her parents knew to love her. So like she did what she could with what she had. It just wasn't what I needed all the time. So, you know, I love her and I miss her every day. And there's a lot of moments where I'm like, oh man, I really wish my mom was here. But I also know that if my mom was here, she'd be like, why are your daughter's ears not pierced yet? And she's like, what? Look at this house. It's a damn disaster. Why you're a terrible housewife. And I'm like,
she's 9 months old and her ears aren't pierced yet?
Yes. Yes. She's 10 months old. She just hit her 10-month old birthday. But yeah, like, you know, why is your house a full, like, puro desastre? And I'm like, mother, I work. So, like, as much as I'm like, man, I really wish she was here. I know what she was. It's like that part is like burned into my brain. So my mom died, his mom died. We decided we wanted to have kids and we go, okay, let's go. I've always wanted to go to Venice before I die. Like, I want to go to Italy. We saved up the money. We hit it. We went. We go to Italy. We go to the Vatican. And I'm buying a rosary at the Vatican. And this girl comes up to me. And I'm straight up like, this is human trafficking. I'm going to die. Like, my husband on the other side. This is who I am as a person.
Wait, I mean, okay, I get it. Because I go there too. But like, did she say something first? Or just immediately when she walked up, you were like, oh God.
No, she walks up to me and starts a conversation. And I'm like, am I being targeted? I'm like,
okay.
Y'all have better targets than me.
I just wanted to get the vibe.
No. No, she seemed
like she walked up to and you were like, oh my God, human trafficking.
Yeah, I mean, no, there was like one extra step. But honestly, I have also been told that that's not the first step most people take in their minds. Where it's like a stranger strikes up a conversation and then you go, oh, human trafficking immediately. I'm like,
I mean,
I watched Taken once and that was it. But all I'm saying is I also listen to a lot of crime podcasts. So here we are. I'm just
saying, the way my Citizen app dings.
I do not have Citizen for a very good reason. For a very strong reason.
Sitting here quietly watching TV last night and it just kept dinging. And every time I looked over, I was like, damn, Citizen.
I also have my notifications on.
Damn, Citizen.
It freaks out. My anxiety just goes, and I can't do it. I can't do it. So like my husband's all the way over there. He's looking at some other stuff. We know that, you know, we actually did our entire trip to Europe with like a carry-on and like a backpack suitcase. We were not trying to backpack through Europe. We were not. I just don't want to carry too much crap. It's all I am. So I'm like, I just don't. And also in my head, I'm like, that way I don't buy too much stuff. That was a lie, by the way.
You got to carry everything you buy.
Yes, it was. I was very wrong, but still. And we go, and I'm like, I want to go to the Vatican. Let's go to the Vatican. We go, and he's going and looking over at some other stuff. We're trying to get like some tchotchkes for the kids. We ended up just getting postcards, which I think was great. Because I love postcards. I do. I love birthday cards. I love postcards. Like that's my jam. And I'm looking at a rosary because I was like, I want a rosary from the Vatican. I get the rosary, and I'm like looking at which one I want. The girl comes up to me and she goes, "Hi," and I was like, "Hi," and she goes, "I honestly don't remember if she was speaking I think she was speaking Spanish, and she was speaking Spanish, and she goes, "My name is Alejandra," and I was like, "Hi, I'm Leti," and she like stops for a second, and she looks at me and she goes, "I think this belongs to you," and she hands me this little like saint card, and it's like this big, and she hands me this little saint card. It's got this tiny little medallion of Our Lady of Lourdes, Our Lady of Lourdes, and it's a French saint. And I'm like, oh no, that's not mine. Like I didn't drop anything. That's actually not mine. She goes, no, something is telling me that you should have this and that this belongs to you. And I'm like, what? Oh, are you sure? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, thank you. She goes, have a good day. And then she walks away. And I'm like, okay, so this is human trafficking. Like, is someone watching me and they're gonna be like the girl with the card? Like, and it's this big. So I'm like, I like immediately hide it in my wallet so that they don't see me walking around with the card. I buy my rosary and like they're about to kick us out. They're closing down the store. And I buy my rosary and I tell Carl what happened. He goes, that's weird. So we're walking home from Vatican City and we're walking to our hotel. And I'm like, I'm just looking around because I grew up in the Valley. So like, I'm not the like he grew up in a very like nice neighborhood where, you know, people don't like follow you to like jack your laptop. But I grew up in the Valley. So that's not right. And I'm just like, I'm not seeing the same person twice. I'm not seeing the same car twice. Like, and I'm just really suspicious. We got pizza, we got some gelato, we make it back to our hotel, and we're fine. And I'm like, that was weird. But I think that was my mom. So I'm like, So when I found out I was pregnant a month later. Like a month later, I got pregnant. So I'm like, odd. So then it came time to find our name. We always we're like, these are really good middle names. These are not like the first name. Like these are excellent middle names. You're like, oh, what about this? And I was like, I don't want Marie. I don't want Michelle. I don't want Maria.
As a middle name or as a first name or both?
As like name at all. Because my husband's family, on his Italian side, his grandfather's name is Michele. His children's names, his son, middle name Michael, his daughter, middle name Michelle, spelled like Michele. And then my husband's middle name is Michael. And I'm like, no more. And his first cousin's first name is Michael. I'm like, no more Michaels. We're not doing that. I get it. We're Catholic. No, that's it. And I didn't want Maria because that's literally like every Mexican kid named a kid Maria. Like we're good here. And then there's the running joke of like all the white girls, their middle name is either Marie or Rose. And one of my friend's middle name is Marie and the other one's middle name is Rose.
So I too was raised somewhat Catholic, not super religious, but my mother
culturally Catholic.
Yeah, Catholicism. My mother's mother was white. My mother's father was Italian. Almost everybody on my mother's side, from my grandmother down, female. His middle name is Marie, including my grandmother. So I am Xtina Marie.
Yep. It's what happens. And it's so funny. So I was like, okay, I want to give her a name that's very Mexican, but that also like my Italian and German like in-laws can pronounce. His aunt at one point was like, this name is so weird. What is this name? And it was Sochi. I'm like, oh, that's a Nahuatl name. Like that's something a lot of Mexican girls are named. It's a beautiful name. And I actually wanted to pick that name. And I'm sure that I was like, so we're not going with that one for the first kid. Let's acclimate y'all into that. So let's acclimate you.
I'm gonna put this one in the back pocket for later.
Just for the later. So we gave her Xtina because I literally woke up in the middle of the night. As you can tell, I'm very intuitive in a weird sense, where I'm always like, stop being a dick. That person's not an asshole. Stop it. Stop being mean right now. And then 2 months later, I'm like, I was right. They were an asshole. I was right. But I'm always trying to tell myself to stop. So I woke up in the middle of the night and I'm like, Xtina. We should name her Xtina. And my husband turns around and he's like, what? Okay. And then he goes back to bed. And we talked about it. He goes, yeah, that's a good name. I'm like, cool. I named her Alejandra because I didn't want to name her Lourdes. For over the saint card. But I was like, there was something about that moment that hit me. So I'm like, her middle name is Alejandra. And I'm like, look, we can name her Alexandra and like twist it. I think Alexandra is a beautiful name as well. I'm like, we can do Alexandra. And he goes, no, Alejandra's good. And I'm like, all right, cool. So Xtina, Alejandra, and then her third middle name is actually for my mother-in-law. Because to me, that girl coming up to me in the Vatican, that was my mom. And I have this weird thing where I really didn't want to name people after people in the family, like specifically after people, because I don't want my kid to be raised in a way where she feels like she has to live up to a name. I'm like, I want you to be you, don't be a dick, and tip service people, but you can't, like, I don't want you living up to other people. Honestly, we talk about this all the time. Like, on my tombstone or the plaque on my urn, it's gonna say, "Don't be a dick." That's what's going. That's what's going.
I like
Some
it.
wherever I lay, that's what's gonna get
I like
done.
it. I like it.
So that's how, like, she does have 2 middle names, but it was after people, and the story's really long. And then we were trying not to give her like a hellish initials, and we didn't realize it, but her initials spell my husband's first name. And I was like, oh no. I
No,
didn't
that's good though.
switch it. And like nothing sounds as good. So my brother is amazing and I love him very much. My brother Danny will call her Baby Carl. I'm like, that's not her name. And he goes, Baby Carl.
But I mean, you know, they're gonna have nicknames anyway.
They are. The thing with Mexican family though is like they will give you the like annoying nickname ever. Like if they can give you an annoying, and I tried so hard to not get her an annoying nickname. And I'm like, we can call her Ale, we can call her Christy, like we can call her Chris. And she got to Baby Carl.
Yeah, you don't get to pick. Like the nicknames just come. Like I don't know how I started calling my niece Stink, but from when she was little, she was my Stink. And she got to be about maybe 11 or 12. And she was like, I am not a Stink. And I was like, all right. And I stopped calling her that.
Yeah.
And then my nephew was born and he's only 5. So he was little. And I called him a little stinker. I didn't call him my little stink. I called him a little stinker. And the way her face twisted, and she was like,
excuse me.
No, he's not stink. And I was like, no, I called him a little stinker. And she was like, okay.
She's like, that was fine. She's like, I know you like it. You're a teenager right now, but I know you like it.
It just comes. It's a term of endearment that just comes. You can't because, okay, so my oldest son is a junior. He's named directly after his father. Same first name, same middle name, same last name, Junior.
Yeah.
And I have always hated that because
I didn't know that you had to have the exact first and middle name to be a junior. I thought if it was a first name, you're considered a junior. And I didn't know, like my husband says that it has to be first and middle name. I didn't know that. I was like, if you got the same first name, that's it. You're immediately a junior. And we make the joke that like every Mexican kid has a cousin junior.
I'm not sure because I feel like if you just put it on the birth certificate as their official name, that's what it becomes.
That's also fair.
But his name literally is same first name, same middle name, same last name, Junior.
Yeah.
I've always hated that. So same thing on my Mexican side. My cousin's named after his dad. The man was in his 30s. There's
always a cousin Junior.
But we never called him Junior. His name, so my uncle's name is Lupe.
Of course it is.
Yeah. Guadalupe, obviously, but Lupe.
My sister was named after her dad, and it's Guadalupe. Yeah.
So my cousin, as his oldest son, was named Guadalupe Jr.
Yep.
This man's entire life, and I think his mom might still call him that, and he's 3 years older than me, 2 years older than me. So he's in his early 50s.
Yeah.
Baby Loopy. The man was in his 30s, married with small children, and they were my mom and my aunt were still calling him Baby Loopy. Baby Loopy. Baby Loopy.
So that is honestly kind of like one of the best cholo names I've ever heard. Also, like I'm not saying your cousin is. I'm just saying like that is a great.
Definitely not. I feel it. Yeah,
if you want to go down that route, he already has the nickname. It's already there. That's winning.
So because of that, I always hated Junior. Like I hated it. And I had another cousin, even on my black side, he was named after, and they called him Junior. and other people that I met as I was growing up, people, Junebug, because their name is Junior, like,
Yeah.
and I've always hated it. I'm like, I want people to have their own name.
Yeah.
When my son was born, we had the whole time, we didn't find out what either of our children were. I didn't want to know. I was like, no, like, I don't think you're supposed to know.
No, see, for me, it's surprising, and because my husband wanted to, like, he wanted to find out, and I'm like, dude, he's like, let's keep it a surprise. I'm like, is it not surprising enough that something is going to come out of my body? Is it not surprising enough that, like,
part of it for me was also like, you just don't know. You're going to have a baby. When you meet them, you're going to meet them, whoever they are. And I feel like you're not supposed to know. If you were supposed to know, there would be a way to know. You know what I mean? Like, naturally.
Yeah.
And that's just me. Not that,
no,
everybody has their own. But for me, I was like, no, I don't want to know. And people wanted to know, oh, do you know what? No, I don't want to know. I want to find out when the baby's born.
I was 1,000,000% sure Xtina was going to be a boy.
I was 1,000,000% sure it was going to be a girl.
I was like, it's going to be a boy. It's going to be a boy. I know it's going to be a boy. I'm just planning on ahead of time. I know it's going to be a boy. And in my head, I was thinking all these different things. I'm like, oh, like teddy bears and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's going to be a boy. And I was thinking about a bunch of boy names. Like before we even got engaged, he and I were talking. We were very weird people. We are very weird people. But we were talking about like the future, like, so kids' first names. And he's like, it's got to be it. It's like my dad's name is, I have my dad's name. My dad has his dad's name. His dad has his dad's name. Like this is going back 3 generations of like Carl's. And I'm like, oh. I'm like, that's fine. That's fine. I get middle name. He's like, that's fine. I'm like, this is going to be the most middle name. This is going to be the most Mexican middle name ever. And I was like, oh, done. Like, we already have the name. We're all set. I'm like, just in case, let's think about some girl names you like, just in case. And I was like, it's a girl. Okay, fine. It's a girl.
No,
but we bought a bunch of like, for us, we'd like to have a
girl's name chosen.
Oh my God.
Because we were convinced it was going to be a girl.
Yeah.
And so when he was born and he was a boy, we were like, oh,
we need
okay. And then I was still, so I had a cesarean. I was still on the table and all that. I'm holding him for the first time. And my husband says to me, I think my dad would really like it if he was a junior. And I thought about it for a second and I said, okay. Because father-in-law had a lot of input and influence going in. And so I did it to honor my father-in-law. But so I've always called him either by his first name and called his father dad or daddy or, something else. And he decided at a pretty young age he wanted to go by DJ. And so we would call him DJ. And now as he's older, he literally just had a birthday. He is now the same age I was when I had him. But he owns his name. He goes with it and he makes word plays off of it on social media and all of that stuff. So he's good with it. But yeah, I told him, okay, well, we'll do that, but I get full naming rights to the second kid. And I did. And the second kid does have grandpa's middle name, but I got full rights to the second kid.
Yeah. Like the agreement was if it's a boy, it has to have the same first name, but I get full middle name. If it's a girl, we just throw in on it. And the problem was none of us had, like, we weren't the people that were fighting over names. We were not like, no, it's a stupid name. No, I hate that name. No, we were both like, yeah, that's nice. That's a good middle name. That's nice. Middle name. So we had like 87 middle names for her. And we just couldn't find the right first name. And the more we kept saying, we're like, Xtina. Yeah, that works. And it's very, like, it works really well because it's very Catholic. It's very Italian. It's very German. It's very Mexican. Like, it works for all of her ethnicities. So
it is definitely a name that goes across ethnicities.
So we're like, all right. Like, the Germans can say it. The Italians can say it. The Mexicans can say it. Like, all of our friends can say it. Here we are. We're good. So her name was pretty easy. Now, if we have another girl, that's going to be a little harder. But basically, I just want it to sound, I want them to have the same fear I had when my mom screamed at me in Spanish. Like, I don't want my children to fear me, but I do want them to be afraid that they didn't take the chicken out of the freezer.
That's fair.
Like, I want them to love me, but I also want them to know that you need to clean up your damn room when I tell you to clean up your damn room. You're lucky you have your own room. Go clean it.
Okay. I want to veer a little bit and go back to a couple things that you said while you were
so many things
sort of introducing, but we also like just kind of ran in. Okay, so you said you are a child wrangler, that is
yes.
what you have been. Of course,
Human
that is
wrangler.
where we met. I know that you teach 3rd grade.
For now, yes.
So I want to go back to 2 things you said. Number 1, being a child wrangler, and then what that's like then going home and now having your own child to wrangle. And number 2, because I know your class, the don't be a dick thing. How do you kid friendly that for them?
So I'm going to start with number 2, because number 1 is very straightforward. Like, don't be a dick with especially my particular kids. And for everyone that doesn't know, which really is really like literally everyone that's on this, unless like you have other former coworkers that are watching this, which is awesome. My class is a special group of loving humans, and individually, all of these kids are magical little beings. And I legit think that every one of these kids on their own is a dope kid. Like, they're sweet. Your face, don't stop. Like,
because I know how that goes. I've worked in schools long enough to know how that goes. Like, this can be the most brilliant, perfect, sweet little kid, but when you put this kid with these 2 kids,
it's over. Yeah. Like, individually. And so I get it, because
each one of them can be the sweetest little kid, but usually it's that one that's the spark. And when they get together.
Oh, I also have some cheese for you. I've got some cheese made, like, no idea. You're going to hate hearing this. But like, yeah, like individually, and this is why the parents are like, well, this never happens at home. Like, of course this never happens at home. You don't have 20 to 25 other kids in your home at the same time. You shouldn't. Like, at the same time, trying to tell them to do something they absolutely despise, all while they have to be nice to each other. And so, like, for me, if it's don't be a dick, usually in school, and this is why I normally have worked with 4th and 5th graders, because younger kids require more support and more hand-holding to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
like middle school.
You know, I can't do middle school, honestly, because they're just so mean. And that's usually, like, statistically, when parents get divorced is when the kids are old enough to, like, kind of understand it's not your fault. It's when all the puberty is hitting real hard. Like, it's not just the insy bitsy bit of puberty. It's like,
yeah, but my sarcasm is top tier. And so in the middle school, it works really well.
And see, for me, my sarcasm has worked so well with 5th and 4th graders that it's magic. I love it. And so in 3rd grade, I was very, very apprehensive to go into 3rd grade. But I was like, my last job did not rehire me back. And I just haven't, and I have a newborn and we're poor. So I need, when I say poor, I am very lucky. Like, I just found out that I actually did grow up poor. And when I say I just found out, it's more like I thought certain things were normal. And then I'm talking to my husband. He goes, what in the poverty is that? And I'm like, oh, you didn't do that. I'm like, at one point I just straight up texted my brothers in our group chat. And I go, how old were you when you found out we were poor? Not broke. Poor. And they were like, just like here and there. So like when I go and I talk to my kids, like my sarcasm is really there. And I'll basically just be like, you do not have to be friends. You don't even have to like each other, but you will be respectful to one another. So that means don't touch their shit. Don't like pull on their clothing, their hair, their anything. And like that really just covers the gamut, right? Don't touch their shit. Don't touch their body. Done. And unfortunately, things like you do not have to like them, but you will be respectful to them. You do not have to be friends, but you will be respectful to them. And we don't use our bodies. If it's attached to your body, if it's a sweater, if it's a shoe, if it's a backpack, it's now part of your body. And we don't use our bodies to harm other people. And I have to say crap like that. And as much as I believe it, because I'm saying it in kid terms, I also think that sometimes you just have to use the words Like before winter break, I thought that one of my students had stolen a pencil. This loving family gave me us like a packet of Chargers pencils. And I was so, because for me, like, you never have to give me anything. Like, I'm happy. Like, this is, I've always wanted to be a teacher, so I'm happy doing my job. A gift is always very nice and always welcome. It's just one of those things where it's like a really nice bonus. So I was doing a bunch of tests, and during lunch, I realized one of those pencils is gone, and the pack said a pack of 6. And I had only sharpened one, and the sharpened one was in the pack. And I go, oh my God, they stole like one of my pencils. And I've had a couple of kids have that issue this year. And I'm like, oh, so I sat them down after lunch and I was like, you guys, a pencil's missing and that's not okay. I don't want you accusing anyone. We don't accuse here. I'm just hoping that if you did take it, if it shows up in this classroom before, like after you guys leave for winter break, I will ask no questions. But you do realize that if you're taking something that doesn't belong to you, that's called stealing. And if you are stealing something, that makes you a thief. And that's not good. And a lot of people don't like when you do that with children. Like, how dare you call my child a thief? I'm like, I did not call your child a thief. I said someone that steals something is called a thief. Because sometimes we say it in a really cutesy way. And I was telling them, like, with the little kids, we say, like, oh, like, something like grew legs and walked away, or something did this, or like it's missing somehow. Like, no, guys, I know it's not here. And I know
kids are old enough to take accountability. They are.
You're 8 and 9. If you took it and it doesn't belong to you, it's called stealing. And if you're stealing, you're a thief. And here we are.
And if you don't learn it now, then when will you learn it? When you do it as an adult and go to jail?
Yeah, that's so much worse. The stakes are so much higher.
Yeah.
So I was like, if it shows up, that's good. I will ask no questions. I'm just glad that you owned up to it. You left it somewhere and it shows up. If it doesn't show up, that means I can't trust you. That means I have to hide all of my things except for the bare supplies that we need for these lessons at a time. I get a text message from a dad that afternoon because it was the day of winter break. And the dad was like, hey, I hear there was a misunderstanding. And I was like, oh, here we go. He had actually taken one of the pencils out of the packet because he was also a big like Chargers fan.
Oh, before they gave it to you.
Before they gave it to me. And I was like, oh, I literally texted, oh, thank God. I was like, oh, thank God. Like, you have no idea how happy that makes me that no one stole my stuff. I'm like, oh my God, good. My kids are still fine. Yeah. Like, I do have kids. I have this one particular child, and she's sweetie patootie, but she's also very anxious. And she'd come to me, she'd be like, Mrs. Lender, I took one of your magnets from the board a couple weeks ago. I'm sorry. And like she's in this moment, she's in this phase where she like the guilt is eating at her so much she has to come and tell you what she did, but she did this like months ago. So you're like, at this point, I'm like, the sting isn't even there anymore. Like, you didn't take $20 out of my wallet, you took a magnet from my board. And I'm like, okay, honey, thank you for telling me. I'm like, don't do that again. Don't do that again. She goes, okay. And I just walk away. I'm like, dude, I'm like, this is so cute.
Oh, but those are the ones that I love, though. Like, they're learning conscience, and they're learning right from wrong, and they're learning apologies, even accountability.
Just so anxious. I actually have to email my parents about something else. That's my ADHD. But like, she's just so anxious that it actually hurts her. And I'm like, babe, it's okay. It's okay. Just take deep breaths, chill out, and it's fine. Just don't do it again. So every time she goes up to it, I'm like, thank you for telling me. Don't do it again. So really, the don't be a dick comes back to that. It's like, don't touch people's shit and don't touch people's bodies, and we'll be all good. How
do they do with words, though? Are they okay, or is that a whole nother conversation?
The things that come out of these kids' mouths. This wasn't my student, but it was the teacher next to me. We're doing a Native American lesson, and we're just actually wrapping it up. One student, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with this one actually, went to his classmate and called him a buffalo fucker. And I was like, one, how do you know? Do you even know what that means? Because sometimes they say things and they actually don't know what it means.
Yeah, but like to put those two words together like that in that way and then
Yeah,
call someone in third grade.
in third grade. Yes, it was
Okay.
ridiculous. I was like, dude, come on. And she tells me this, and I'm like, he did not. She's like, yeah, what do I and every time something like this happens, I'm like, what do I do with this? What are you doing with the 9-year-old that calls their classmate a buffalo effer? Like, I don't what do you do with that? So like my kids, they call me like I have a kid that's like call each other like fucking fat ass. Just like dropping F bombs here and there. But this particular kid will do it. He's so quiet. So he'll go to a kid and he'll say something fucked up, and then he'll just sit there like he'll lie to your face too. He'll be like, I didn't do that. He's really good at it. He made up a little sister. I laughed out loud. I was like, honey, where's your homework? And he goes, oh, my little sister thought I was drinking water, and my little sister thought I was drinking out of her water cup. And I was like, no. Because I don't grade homework. Why would I? And I'm like, straight pretzel. Do you have your homework or not? That's all I need to know. Yes or no? Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, my sister thought I was drinking out of her water cup, and she spilled all water all over my homework. And I'm like, so you don't have your homework? And he goes, no. I'm like, okay, that's all you had to say. This has nothing to do with your grade. Just tell me that you've got the homework and that whether you have it or not. So I text his mom later that day, and I'm like, hey, he let me know what happened. And this like I spilled water all over. It has happened before. And I'm like, if this happens again, just let me know. I'll make him another copy. Like, it's fine. And this woman texts me back. I'm at dinner with my husband and my daughter. We're here in the living room. We're eating at a table. And she texts me back with, Timmy doesn't have a little sister. He's the only child.
That one's going to be one to watch.
Oh, he already is. But I cackled.
No, but I mean, as he gets older, how is he so good at lying and so quick to come up with a story on the spot at like 8 or 9 years old? It's only going to get worse.
Have you seen like the Key and Peele thing where it's like, I looked this woman in her eye, suck it. Like, he looked me into the windows of my soul and just straight face. I'm like, oh shit. His mom is like, doesn't have a little sister. And I cackled so much, I like freaked out my daughter. And my husband's like, what are you doing? What's going on? And I'm like, babe, I have to tell you something.
Wow.
Like,
oh my God.
And it's ridiculous. And I told his mom, I was like, honestly, I just laughed. I just laughed out loud. She's like, I am so sorry. He said he lied because he was afraid he would get in trouble. I'm like, when do they ever get in trouble for not having homework? The worst they get is, dude, bring your homework to school. That's the worst they get. Because if you're not doing your homework, it's only affecting you. I don't give a shit. I already passed the 3rd grade.
Right. It's practice.
Yeah, to practice. I don't grade homework. I know we used to, and I think it's stupid. I don't grade homework. It's more work for me to grade it. All I have to do is log it. So when I talk to your parents and your grades are low and shit's going wrong, I'm like, he's not turning in homework. He's not turning in class assignments. What did you expect? That's why his report cards are like this. So I wanted to talk to you about him not turning in homework. And so I have that like record, but I don't grade homework. It's like, when do you ever get in trouble for this? Sir. And you spend so much of your energy wrangling these kids and giving, like, you spend all of your patience on them and on their parents and on the administrative staff, that you no longer have the gas in the tank when you come home. And that's the part that's really, really hard for me right now, because my daughter is 10 months old. She's teething, still doesn't have a single tooth. So she's teething like a champ. And it's crazy because if I've had a really hard day at home and she starts screaming, she's in a screaming phase because I'm hoping she's going to talk soon. And she like gets into the screaming thing, I lose, like, you see me drain, and then my husband has to tap in. And it's not like he didn't have a long day at work too. Like we both had long days at work. Like we don't have wives. So, like the old, like, you ever hear that article? I think it may have been Gloria Steinem that wrote it. I could be incredibly wrong, but it was in like the height of the Gloria Steinem era of like the second wave of feminism, where it's like, it was published in Miss Magazine, which is probably why I think it was Gloria Steinem. It's like, I want a wife. I want to go to my job and then come home and then the dinner's made and the house is clean, and the kids are taken care of and they're washed and they're put to bed, and like someone's going to take care of like my laundry and someone's going to clean the bathrooms. I want a wife. And like we don't have wives. Like we're both working parents. We're both have really high stress jobs, and his season is really
he
busy.
has a wife, but his wife is a full-time teacher.
Yes. So his wife is always mommy on call, and it has been for years. And this job takes his wife away from him a lot. Like we were just talking about how I need to go onto campus because we don't have childcare for the next 2 days. So he took the last 2 days off because report cards were due yesterday. And I'm taking Monday, Tuesday off because he needs to go back to work. And I'm taking those days unpaid. So it's unpaid days off, and I'm watching my daughter, and I'm not upset at it. I'm just angry at our country. Like I'm not obviously upset at my daughter, but I'm just upset at the country for not having something set in place for working parents. And honestly, if I could go to the school and strap my kid onto me and teach my lessons, I would. I'm pretty sure there's an insurance issue with that, so I can't and I won't. But I'm like, if I just
can tell you for a fact, yes, there is an insurance issue with that.
That's what I figured. So I was like, I have to go to campus and make copies because they ran out of paper 2 days ago. So I couldn't make this copy. And so I'm like, I have to go to campus and I have to make this copies. He goes, do you really? And I'm like, yeah, because it's going to rain the next 2 days. And then like I could go Monday, but then I have to bring the baby with me and it's going to be pouring that day. And I'm already planning on leaving my house, leaving my family to go to a school, print out those copies so that my students are cared for the 2 days that I'm gone. And God bless that substitute because it's going to be raining both days. So that's going to suck. My boys are on a hunting for worms kick. They are
great boys.
They are digging holes in the playground, which they are allowed to do. They are allowed to dig holes. And then
that's a whole nother story. Why are they allowed to dig holes? But
yes. They're, I don't know, what do you call it? Mining for worms, farming worms. They got God knows what, and they filled it with dirt, and then they picked worms from the earth and put it in there, and then they hid it under the storage pod for like the beige emergency storage. They slid it under there, and those are their worms. And I had 2 boys in my specifically my class try to bring Ziploc baggies full of dirt and worms into my classroom.
The Ziploc baggie is
bad choices,
a little
yes.
counterproductive, isn't it?
Well, they're 8. Well, no, they're 9, but still, they're not there yet. We did do a file lesson. I don't think they remember that part. It was at the beginning of the year, life cycle. But yeah, so they tried to bring Ziploc baggies of worms into my classroom. And this was Wednesday. I had an absolute mental breakdown because I was fighting this kid. I think you know which kid, my VIP kid. I call them VIP kids. VIP kid. And I was like, dude, you gotta put the worms, go put them by the tree. And he walks to the tree and he looks at the worm and he's got them in his hands. And he's like,
wait, they're no longer in the Ziploc bag?
One kid had him in the Ziploc bag. This kid had him in his hands. And the other kid had the Ziploc bag in his lunch, and he has like a brown paper lunch sack. So he had it in there because all I do is say, put your lunch sacks in the cubby and then come to your desks. Why would I check their lunch bags? What am I, a warden? I don't check lunch bags. Why would I? And I'm like, ew. So the first Timmy is like holding on to them in his hands. and he's just staring at them like they're the soul of his life. And I'm like, you just found these worms. You could not have gotten attached to these worms this quickly.
Also, you took them out of the dirt, so putting them back in the dirt is not going to hurt them.
It's only fair. He wouldn't put them away. Now he's facing a brick wall away from me, won't turn around, won't talk to me. And that's I think that triggers me a lot. Like, it's very infuriating to me because now you're refusing to have a conversation with me. And I am just trying to I'm just trying to teach you phonics, man. I'm just trying to teach you how to multiply. This is literally it. But I can't have you have worms in the class because at one point you're going to try to eat one. I know you are. I know, boys. You're going to try to eat a worm on a dare. Someone's going to dare someone to eat a worm. I can't have that in my class. So I'm always the asshole.
Have you ever read the book, How to Eat Fried Worms?
I read it so long ago. I don't remember fully what happened, but that's really it. Like, it was a dare. And so I'm like, I cannot have this. I can't have this happen. So I go in, I call an admin. They come out and I'm like, dude, you told me not to waste instructional time. He's not talking to me. I got to go get my kids. Let's go. And she looks at me and she's like, did you tell him this is a growth report? And I think my heart stopped beating for a moment, actually. Something in me stopped moving. I was like, no, because he won't speak to me. So I'm assuming he's too heightened to understand. So I was like, no, I did not. And the admin goes like, okay, go outside, tell him that. And I will be there for support, but you go outside and tell him that. I'm like, okay, cool. And I go outside and the kid's gone. I'm like, where did Timmy go? All right, cool. I'm like, that's it. It's over. I'm going to go get my kids. And my kids were already walking to class. So they're walking to class with a TA because there was one available at the time. And they lined up. He's with the kids. And I'm like, over here. We're talking over here. Let's go. And again, won't talk to me. Is now kicking the fence. Every time I get within 2 feet, walks away from me. And they start to be like, all that hard work for nothing. I'm like, what hard work? I'm like, and I had to picture my daughter in my face to calm myself down and talk to him gently and go, what are you talking about hard work? He goes, all that hard work digging for worms for nothing. I'm like, all right, honey, we cannot bring worms to class. I need you to come to class. And he's like still like turning his body away from me. And I'm like, okay, I have to tell you that this is a growth report. I do see like Miss Susie over here. She's coming over to talk to you. I have to go teach my class. Bye-bye. And I look at her and I go, I got to go teach my class. He's not talking to me. And I walk away. And I try to go teach my class. And then he's sulking and crying in my calm corner for the rest of the hour. Like until lunchtime. So for the next hour and a half, that's all he's doing.
So half his day was spent pouting and crying over these worms that he could not bring into the classroom.
Yes. And I spent the subsequent lunch. So like this was after recess. I spent my lunch crying on the floor, like full just heaves and sobs because I'm like, I didn't teach anything today. And for me, like, I love being a teacher. I love teaching. I love showing kids, like, look at this math problem. Like, let's make this make sense to you. I love that. And I love making them laugh and I love having them happy. And I understand when things get hard and like your dog died and your mom is sick or like your cousin moved away. I get that. I've just found out I do have a neurotypical brain. I do have ADHD, but my brain does not comprehend how you can become this upset over worms, and it bothers me. And then how a stupid worm derailed my entire lesson, because normal people have adult coworkers. And if Tom over there doesn't do his fucking report on time, then you can go and chew Tom out and be like, Tom, you dumb fuck, do your goddamn report on time. You can't do that to Timmy. You can't be like, Timmy, you fucking asshole. No, he's 8 years old. Like, Timmy does not have the full frontal cortex. You don't.
No, I get it. My own way of dealing with this sort of situation when I was over there Like in my head, something sarcastic immediately pops in my head, but I can't say that because these are little kids. And
That's
so
right.
I'll just look. Yeah, I'll just look at them until it's awkward. Because
Mine will stare at you or they'll look away, but they won't move. And they also won't do the thing that you told them to do. Like they'll live in awkward sitting. They do not care. Mine are a
yikes.
very special brand. They just
I was
are.
pretty sure that they did not particularly care for me for the most part, which I was fine with. Because my most interaction with them was probably being out serving lunch, and they act like animals at lunchtime.
Oh my gosh,
And
yeah.
so I
To the
would
point
be,
like I would come out.
yeah. Like, how many times I would have to say, I'm not Miss So-and-so. Because they'd be like, well, Miss So-and-so lets us do it. I'm not Miss So-and-so.
Yes. I had students at my old school last year, and this kid was awesome. And he, like, if you talked to this kid about, like, he knew every car brand, he knew every car model. So, like, he just loved talking cars. And then he was like, I hate it here. And I'm like, that's okay. You still have to do your work, though. It's like, I want to go to Las Vegas. And I'm like, all right, cool. Ask your parents for the weekend, but you still have to do your work. And he'd be like, Mr. So-and-so would never make me do that. And I'm like, honey, I know Mr. So-and-so and I look a lot alike, but I'm also not Mr. So-and-so. So, like, sorry, man. I'm your fourth grade teacher, not your third grade teacher. Here we are.
Yeah.
And so with third grade, it's just so much harder because they're less mature. They're more immature. And so they don't have the like social skills. And also these are the COVID kindergartners.
I was going to say, aren't your kids the ones who were in kindergarten during the COVID year? Yeah,
Like
that means their social skills are lacking.
Down the gut. They don't have social skills. And so it's hard because I use all of my energy on my students. And so I come home and my daughter's crying and I get really frustrated and I'm like, I can't do this. But I have to because this is my child. And I had said it a long time ago, like as many times as I can, I will put my daughter to bed because I won't let my job take that special part from me. Because after a while, she won't need me to go to bed. Like she'll just go to sleep on her own wherever she can, in the car, on the floor, like wherever. And I'm like, my job is going to take a lot of things, mainly my sanity, but you're not going to take that. And so, no, I'm not kidding. I have now tripled my antidepressants since working here. I have tripled it. At first, I doubled it. And I even told one of the admin, and she was like, hey, I'm really sorry about this, but also I do need you to put these things in. I'm like, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but I did, like, this has been a very hard year for me. I've had to double my antidepressants since being here. I've increased my Adderall to, like, be as productive as possible. And now it's at triple. So I think...
And this is your first year at this school, right?
This is my first year at this school. This is my 5th year teaching, my 4th year at the school. And this is one of those moments where I'm like, I totally get it when people say your 5th year is like the year. Like, are you staying? Are you leaving? I get it because part of me is like, maybe I should just leave and enjoy this time my daughter is young because these kids, flip tables and break pencils on purpose and bring worms into your classroom and give you attitude. Like if any teenager or grown adult gave you the attitude that these kids gave you, you might like consider decking them. Or just if they were in high school, you'd kick them out of class until they can work in a different environment or do an independent study, or if they would like to take the high school exit exam and vamoose. But they are 8-year-olds and they don't have control over their emotions or their bodies. And a lot of my class is at least 1/3 neurotypical. Sorry, atypical. So I'm like, So I have considered leaving because I want my sanity and I keep taking my husband's wife away from him and my daughter's mom away from her to give my students their teacher. And it's not enough. And so that's
not enough work-life balance.
There isn't. And I was really trying to have a work-life balance, but you're going to fail. You're going to fail one way or another. And if you're in a school long enough, it seems to be a little easier. But if you're new and you're new to the curriculum and you're new to everything else, you're going to fail. And if I fail my job, I would rather fail my job. But if I fail my job, I get fired. But if I fail my daughter, I lose my daughter. Or if I fail my family, I lose that connection with my family. And theoretically, yes, I can get another job, and I can't just get another redo with my husband and daughter. And that's the really rough part.
I think that sucks that you're halfway through the year and you feel like you're failing, especially when a lot of it isn't you, like you're trying to teach.
I actually did something that is very pedagogically unsound, and all of the pedagogy was like, come after me. But I made like a mega U table, and I moved my carpet from the front of the board and I moved it to the back, and I made a mega U table for the kids that I see that are trying, so that they're closer to the board and therefore closer to me, and I'm gonna have them there. These kids because we had rainy day during lunch. Anytime a lunch supervisor, because they were in the gym, tried to say something while they were showing them Finding Nemo, they were pounding on the ground and chanting, "We want to play! We want to play!" in the echoey gym. So the entire third grade class did that. And I was mortified, because you always feel like these are actually your children, like you gave birth to them, you gave them out. Like you actually feel like these are yours. And I'm like, they did not. They did not. And the supervisor was like, yeah, sorry. So I went in with the other third grade teacher and I was like, we should cancel your field trip. Because if you're acting like this in the gym with people you know, how can we trust you in a museum full of artifacts? And realistically, when has a field trip ever been canceled? Every grade schooler should be threatened with a field trip being canceled if they're acting like a fool.
Because you're not proving you can behave out in public. Oh my God, the field trip's next week, huh?
It is. It's next week. It's next week.
Okay.
They're going to go. It's fine. But I had a parent be upset, being like, it's not fair that, the good kids are being punished with the same kids that are doing the whole thing. And I'm like, ma'am, listen, I get it. And if I could, I would split them up. I literally don't have enough of me. I want to triple clone me, because then one of me can run that group, one of me can run that group, one of me can run that group, and the other me can pee. Like,
recording. I'll be out in a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah. If I could, I would. And I hate it because I love my kids, but being like sitting on the bathroom floor, sitting on my classroom floor, that's covered in mud because they're farming for worms, crying on the floor, being like, I'm an absolute failure. And my partner teacher came in and she's like, hey, can I borrow your broom? And I'm like, yeah, it's over there. And she's like, oh my God, what's going on? I'm just like, I may have to reevaluate. But then it's like, I don't know what other jobs to get. So the work-life balance of teachers is weird. I knew a teacher that literally only slept 3 or 4 hours a day. She had twin kindergartners when COVID hit. So her kids are now 8 and 9. She had a high schooler and twin kindergartners. And
so she was trying to teach on Zoom and deal with her twin kindergartners
while making her husband and her family breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and keeping her house clean. I was like, ma'am, can your husband not make a meal? Which is a whole different story. But she only slept like 3 hours. I was like, why am I getting an email from you at 3 a.m? She goes, oh, I was lesson planning. It's like, go to bed. So it doesn't really exist right now. And I'm hoping that changes. And I was hoping to be a part of the change, like change it from within. I just don't think that's my path anymore. I think that right now my focus should be my kid. So I'm not sure. I'm still debating whether or not to go to, one, let's see if they'll hire me back, because I'm a pain in the ass. Because I keep emailing being like, what are we doing with this kid? And 2, if they do hire me back, can I move up to 4th grade? I know I'll deal with a lot of the same kids, but also they already know me, so they know I yell at them. And I'm just better at 4th grade. Or do I just leave? And it's weird because now I don't have you to be sarcastic with as I walk to the bathroom in power mode.
Yeah. I mean, not in person, but I'm still here.
That's true, which is why I send you memes and videos.
Yeah.
Memes and videos for the win. I sent you the funny one yesterday too.
Yeah. I love your TikToks. Well, thank you for coming and talking to me.
Thank you. I feel like I did a lot, like way too much talking.
No, not at all. Actually, I think you gave a lot of perspective from the inside about a lot of the conversations that are going on nationally about teachers and how hard it is right now. Like I've said over and over again, there's before COVID kids and there's after COVID kids. And these after COVID kids are different. They're so different. Yeah, they like you said, they didn't get the social skills. And so whereas normally in a third grade class, they would already have the skills to sit in class, to pay attention. They'd have the attention span because from kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, they've already been learning that. But these kids didn't necessarily get that.
These kids are pros at Fortnite and Roblox, but they cannot. I have some that cannot properly spell their name, like their last name.
Ooh.
Like they actually have not. And I'm like, why is this misspelled? It's your legal name, sir. And so
it's the one thing you should know how to spell.
I'm like, out of all things, that's it. Yeah. And it's whack. And the fact that there's no consequences is a pain. Like, I don't know if you saw the TikTok guy who's teaching himself how to read, and he's like 38. No. Oh, it's so cool. He was just on the news last weekend, but he's on TikTok. He's become TikTok famous because he's literally recording himself reading books. He's teaching himself how to read because his school, he was just socially upgraded. Like each year, they just moved him on to the next grade level. He graduated high school not knowing how to read.
So that's that no child left behind, right?
Yeah, and he's 38 now, and I'm like, that pisses me off because, and I know this is where like you take your job too seriously, and I'm like, I know, and I'm sorry, but it pisses me off that we're setting kids up for failure because that guy ended up going to jail. Because what the fuck can you do if you can't read? Then you get frustrated and you get pissed, and you're like, doesn't matter, no one gives a shit, and you end up in jail. And if you want to stop the school to prison pipeline, maybe teach them how to fucking read and do basic math instead of being like, oh no, it's really bad for the social and emotional wealth or health to hold them back a year. I'm like, it's going to be really bad for their mental health if they're 17 and they can't read freaking Tuck Everlasting, or they can't read Harry Potter because the words are too big and there's no pictures.
It's not even about the books. Can they read whatever forms they need to fill out? Can they read
the driver's license test
mail that's sent to their house? Can you read the driver's test? Can you need oh my god
test? And so it's like, how are you letting this happen? And instead of like, oh, it's bad for their mental health, it's like, well, it's going to be worse if they can't read. And then they're 17 and they're too embarrassed to admit that they can't read. So they act out, and then they're like, oh yeah, well, you know, these kids.
And by the time they turn 18, they're adults. So when they act out, they're in the adult system now.
Yeah.
Because they didn't learn the things they needed to learn as children to be productive adults.
And he's a black man. So I'm like, these kids don't like, I know we don't want to like look unfair, but I'd rather not be unfair and look unfair than be like, oh, look at how wonderful all of our kids are matriculating to the next grade, and all you did was a disservice because they literally cannot read. And then you have the entire workforce.
Yeah. And that's what it's so crazy because in a lot of situations, and some pertaining to how schools are, because, you know, I'm not a teacher. I always work in the office or in admin or whatever.
I used to dream of working
and I've always said, it's not a matter, like, if you do things the way they're supposed to be done, if you're doing things right, you don't have to worry about how you look.
Yes. Because it's like, you know what? This kid needs to know how to read. Right now, your kid can't read.
And your focus shouldn't be how it looks. It should be what's really happening, regardless of how it looks.
Like,
to me, that's just my...
Yeah, if I didn't care, I'd be like, fuck you, go play a video game over there. Leave me alone. Shut up. Go over there. Leave me alone.
And I have to say, I don't think that's you taking your job too seriously. I think that's you caring about what your profession is. Your profession is literally to teach children. So when you see children that go untaught, you don't like that. I don't think that's caring too much about your job. I think that's...
Well, I think because a lot of times they're like, oh, like, you care about your job, but like, you're not turning in the data. Or you're not like logging the data for this. You're not doing that. Like, your desk is, my desk is a dumpster fire. It is. It absolutely is. This desk is a dumpster fire. The one in the school is a dumpster fire. It just is. ADHD. But it's like,
but our children learning.
It's a dumpster fire. And yes, my data isn't in, but I also know my kids. So I was able to do my report cards by memory because I'm like, yeah, this kid is at beginning level of all these things. And it's because he hasn't turned in a single thing anyway. Like, I know he's smarter than what he's turned in, but he hasn't turned anything in. So I have to log it at this. This kid can read, but cannot comprehend. So he's at developing. This kid has perfect penmanship, but she struggles with multiplication. So in the math section, she's developing and her writing skills need help. I know my kids because I spend time and I talk to them. I bitch a lot, but I work hard to know my kids. And whenever someone says, build a relationship with the kids, relationship building, I'm like, no, you're seeing relationship building the way people see gentle parenting as permissive parenting. Mm-hmm. Your relationship building is permissive parenting. My relationship building is actually gentle parenting. And sometimes it isn't so fucking gentle. But I'm going to hold you to a boundary. If I said you're getting the growth report during recess, you're doing it during recess. And there is no give me a second, third, fourth chance because you need this now. So when you're in high school, you get and understand norms so that when you're in college, you get it. Or if you want to go to a trade school, by all means, my brother's an electrician. He's awesome. He loves it. You understand that we have deadlines. I'm not trying to be a dick. I am not the all-knowing God. I just know that my life did not have to be as hard as it was. And I'm trying to be the teacher that helps you not have a life harder than it has to be. And I'm just like, I don't know.
And that right there is why teachers are the least appreciated profession, I think. So I would say, I
would argue custodians and nurses to that list too.
Oh God. I won't say her name, but poor Miss So-and-so.
Oh yeah. I say hi to her every morning. I think she's great. And then the guy in the evenings, I have run into him so many times. And so I'm just like, the things you have to deal with, like in my classroom, and I make the kids like, there's a sweeper job, but they can't sweep because a regular broom they use as a push broom and they just go like this. So they can't sweep up.
And I feel like the guy at night has it a little bit easier only because of the number of times that I have had to call the day porter for randoms. Like, how often they overflow the toilets.
It's happened.
Or somebody puking in the middle of a classroom. Or, the ones that pee themselves on purpose because they don't want to do whatever it is. Or
like, you know what I didn't need today? Like a 7-year-old purposefully peeing their pants. If it was an accident, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, no.
You purposefully peed your pants, and
It's not the accidents that bother me. It's not the accidents because little kids have accidents.
Yes.
It's the look you dead in the eye and pee on yourself on purpose because you don't want to do what I'm asking you to do.
And I'm still gonna make it. See, when I'm I'm literally like, and you still have to do it. I appreciate Mom a couple days ago. So awesome. Oh, Thursday. We were supposed to do an art project after lunch. And then they did the whole chanting and pounding thing in the gym. And I was like, ooh, you owe a letter of apology to all 3 of the staff members. And if you didn't do it, and I wrote like a whole template on the board. So it said like, I'm sorry for what happened. Next time I will be a good, I'm going to say kid instead of masculine. citizen, and I'm going to encourage my classmates to follow those, like, the citizen skills that we've talked about. And so, like, I wrote the whole thing, and I had a kid, I think you also know this kid, just he straight up refused to do it. And this was 1 o'clock. They leave at 2:30, and I was like, "This is your exit ticket. You may not leave my classroom to intervention, to after school program, to your parents until these 3 letters are written, because I believe that each of those people deserves an apology for that." And this kid is atypical. So I offered him to only write one and write all 3 names. And the whole thing was written for them. So all they had to do was copy. And I said, if you want to write something else, that's totally fine. Like a different version of this, that's fine. I'm like, you don't have to, but it's there in case you don't know what to say. He refused to do it. His parent and he came up to me several times, and he's like, but like, he's like, but I'm not done. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm like, honey, you have time. You have another 45 minutes to write like 6 sentences. I'm like, give 45 minutes. You're fine. You have time. It's fine. Give me one and we're good. I was like, well, I don't want to. And I was like, that's a different problem. We have to, because that's my exit ticket to leave my classroom. And I have plenty of time today, so I can stay here for hours, which I could. And he's dreading it because kids are being dismissed and his parents aren't there yet, but kids are being dismissed. He's like, oh, I'm going to get in trouble. And I'm like, well, honey, start writing now and then you can go. I don't want to. Okay. Love his parent. His mom walks in and she's like, can I go in? And I'm like, of course, come on in. I'm like, I'm not blocking you from this classroom. It's dismissal time. She walks in and she sits next to him and she's like, do you need a pencil? Do you need paper? I'm like, ma'am, I gave your child things. And he had like pushed them away. So I pushed him back and I'm like, here you go. And I'm like working with other kids. And at one point I hear her say, honey, if we have to stay here 3 hours, we stay here 3 hours. But if it takes us 3 minutes, then we can leave in 3 minutes. And I'm like, I love you so much. Can we be friends? Right. You got the boundary.
Those are the parents we love.
I was like, yes, it happened.
Okay. We're at time, but I definitely want to have you back because we definitely have to talk about the parent-teacher side of things because that's a whole nother episode.
Okay.
And other stuff too.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that halfway through the year you're debating whether to leave or not. I totally understand why, and I hope whichever decision you make is the best one for you.
Thank you.
I will say that more teachers like you are needed, the ones who actually care and the ones who want to focus on the teaching and who do then focus on the other skills, even though they shouldn't have to and don't want to. So I think you're doing a great job, and I think you should stop telling yourself you're failing.
Thank you. You are the reason, like, you have already comforted me in crying before. So I'm like, thank you.
You guys have a hard job, and I feel like knowing that and being there, that's all I can really do is try to support you guys because it's a hard job. I see it every day.
And then we get to make jokes on the side.
I see you, Leti. I see you.
Yes.
All right, guys, that's it for this episode of Crazy's Place. Thank you for joining us. As always, I'm Xtina McCrary on Facebook, aka Xtina McCrazy on TikTok and Instagram, host of Crazy's Place. If you're watching, you know that I'm on YouTube. It also has a Facebook and a TikTok. No, a Facebook and an Instagram. Sorry, my bad. Also, host of the Lightning Bolt Chronicles. New episode just dropped last Friday. Go ahead and check that out. That is on YouTube. It's on our website, thelightningboltchronicles.com. You can also listen to it audio only on Audible, iHeartMusic, Amazon Music, and Spotify. And I'm also co-host of Thursday Night Live, which plays live on the McCrazy's Place Facebook page, the McCrazy's Place YouTube page, the Sarcarrogance Media Group, and Fat Girl Chronicles Facebook pages and YouTube pages. 5:15 p.m.-ish Pacific, 8:15 p.m.-ish Eastern. Oh, yes, and I have to add that is actually Saturday morning at 10 o'clock in Japan. All of these podcasts are presented to you by Sarcarrogance Media Group, SMG or SMD. Thank you for joining us. Go forward with kindness and love this week.
Bye.